I'm an educator, and these are 3 things I hope students might gently do during summer break. In an earlier reflection, I spoke about learning to give myself permission to rest during summer, not as a reward, but as a recovery, as a way of returning to a more sustainable way of living and teaching. And as I've been sitting with that idea, I've also been thinking about students, not in terms of performance, not in terms of output, but in terms of what it means to come out of a year that has also been full for them, full of effort, full of expectations, full of emotional and cognitive load, even if it doesn't always look that way from the outside. So this is not advice, not a checklist, not a scaffold, just 3 gentle hopes I find myself holding. Now that both teachers and students are, in different ways, entering this same season of pause. Number 1, recalibrate. I hope there's space to recalibrate, to step back slowly from the intensity of school rhythms, from grades, from comparison, from the quiet pressure of always being measured. Because just as teachers are learning to step out of constant responsibility during summer break, I wonder if students also need time to step out of constant evaluation, not to dismiss learning, but to see it again in a wider frame, less urgent, less compressed, more human. Learning, after all, does not only exist in performance, it also exists in distance, in hindsight, in reflection, and in the slow space where understanding is allowed to form without pressure. Number 2, emotionally regulate. I hope there's space for emotional regulation to unfold without urgency, without needing to immediately reset or become productive again. One thing I've noticed is that many students seem shaped by urgency, the feeling that they must always be catching up, responding, achieving, or preparing for what comes next. And in that constant motion, there is very little space for thinking to settle. But critical thinking is not only something that happens in speed. It also needs stillness. It needs pause. It needs time for patterns to emerge rather than be forced. Sometimes understanding does not come from repetition or pressure. It comes from stepping back long enough to see connections form on their own. And perhaps emotional regulation is part of that same process, not separate from thinking, but a part of how thinking becomes clearer over time. Because when the emotional system slows down, the mind is often able to see differently. When students learn how to emotionally regulate, even feedback will be accepted not as a threat, but as part of the cognitive process. The same way teachers need time to downshift from constant responsibility, students may also need time to calm down from constant pressure, whether academic, social, or internal. Not everything that has been carried needs to be processed immediately. Some things settle only when there's enough space for them to breathe. Number 3, prepare. And I hope there's also space to prepare, but not in the anxious sense of preparation, not rushing into the next year, not trying to solve everything before it begins. More like what I have been learning about rest myself, that pausing is not absence. It is part of sustainability. You do it one at a time, one chapter at a time, one slow task at a time. It is what allows a person to return without depletion. So preparation in this sense is gentle. It is noticing what restores energy, what creates clarity, creating a system that allows you to go through your task one by one, step by step. What allows both students and teachers to enter the next season without carrying everything from the last one at full weight. If we bring these three together, it becomes something simple. Recalibrate, emotionally regulate, prepare. And I realize these are not separate from what I've been reflecting on as a teacher. They are part of the same continuum. Because when teachers learn to rest during summer, it is not only about recovery from work. It is also about re-entering the profession with a more sustainable inner life. And students, in their own way, are also moving through a similar transition. So this is not instruction, not expectation, but a shared recognition of a season where both teaching and learning loosen their grip a little bit. It is a time to recalibrate the mind, to let thinking settle instead of forcing it to accelerate, to allow emotional patterns to regulate without urgency, and to prepare, not by rushing ahead, but by gently returning to oneself.